One thing I hate about Seattle drivers is when they come out of nowhere and totally turn your day upside down. Now, I've seen hundreds of crashes on traffic camera, so it takes a lot to shock me, but this driver managed to make me gasp, and not in a good way. Check out this school bus driver making a left turn into the path of a light rail train. Thankfully, it appeared there were no students on board and this was a minor impact. But sweet mother of God. Just in case there's any doubt about fault, here we see the bus had a red left turn signal and the flashy light indicating that a light rail train was coming. I don't usually advocate for people to be fired for making mistakes, but this person has no business driving children around. Now here's another bus driver having a bad day. Keep an eye on the parked fire engine as the bus driver behind it tries to pull out of a bus stop. That's a pretty solid impact. Luckily, there didn't seem to be much damage and no firefighters were on board. Unfortunately for Seattle Fire, the hits keep coming. The pickup truck coming up the hill has a green light, and they don't see or hear Aid 5 responding down 4th Avenue. Thankfully, no serious injuries were reported. This is similar to the crash of engine 10, which was featured in crash video number 9. In both of those cases, it appeared that the emergency vehicle failed to clear the intersection before proceeding through a red light. Of course, we have many other red light runners who aren't responding to emergencies. Here's a hard hit near Terry and Olive. This SUV driver brakes at the last second, but it's too late. The Subaru driver on the right here tries to treat this intersection like a four-way stop, which is dumb, and of course, they get hit. At the very top of the screen, this driver finishes a U-turn and then decides to just coast through a red light. The crash sends him right towards a pedestrian, but thankfully that person was able to scramble out of the way. Okay, we're going to take a quick break from red lights to talk about light pollution. Light pollution in cities is a real problem. Luckily, there's an easy thing you can do to address it in your neighborhoods. See this light pole here? No longer a problem. Thank you, Good Samaritan. Okay, back to red lights. This SUV driver ignores one at the top of the hill and gets smashed. Okay, top of the screen again. This red light runner is going to take on 3 different cars. They get spun around, and thankfully there were no pedestrians in that crosswalk. Watch the right side of your screen for a Chevy Suburban traveling at pretty high speeds. The driver of that SUV is going to blast through this red light. They get yeeted into a curb and end up flipping over, colliding with at least 1 or 2 other cars as they come to a rest. Get some aftermath video here. Thankfully, despite flipping over and hitting numerous vehicles, there were no serious injuries that we are aware of. Alright, we've got one last red light runner under the monorail. The driver of this white SUV appears to have a red light, which they ignore. Now, I like this camera. It gives us a great view of the monorail passing overhead. The monorail is cool, but kind of useless. We could have expanded it into an awesome regional system, but Seattleites voted against it, a poor decision that continues to haunt us. Speaking of poor decisions, here are some more Seattle drivers making them. Now this driver decides to do a burnout from a red light. Unfortunately, they suck at driving, and they end up smashing into at least one innocent driver. This driver on the right decides to go way too fast coming off the 1st Avenue South Bridge, and they eat it into the curb hard. We see quite a few crashes at this location, both from people going too fast and running the red light. No injuries, but it looks like this driver is going to come out of it with a pretty hefty ticket. Now this driver decides to make a left turn through stopped traffic. Never a good move, and one that I hope my regular viewers would never make. Now left turns are often hard for Seattle drivers. At the top of the screen, this driver turns left into the path of another vehicle, leading to a hard hit. On Rainier Avenue, this driver turns left and again crashes into another vehicle. That vehicle then goes on to smash into a light pole. It's unclear who had the green light in this scenario. We have a similar situation on Aurora Avenue. The driver of this gray car coming towards us is going to collide with the driver of a white car attempting to turn left. That gray car then gets sent into the pole holding the traffic camera. Despite all the shaking, it appears that this was not too hard of an impact, and there's actually not that much damage to the car. Now, left turns are tricky, but even right turns can be hard for Seattle drivers. Check out this vehicle in the left turn lane. They're going to try to turn right from there, and it's not going to end well for them. Unfortunately, they end up taking a pretty sweet Astro van with them. Not to be outdone, this driver tries to make a U-turn from the right lane, but they forget to check for other traffic. Now, that other traffic was moving pretty fast as well, which probably contributed to this crash. Here's another driver failing to look for other vehicles before making a U-turn, this time from the curb. Kaboom. And one last example. Here we see a PT Cruiser, the epitome of car design, making a U-turn from the far right lane and getting bonked by a pickup truck. Speaking of pickup trucks, keep an eye on this one here. Not only is the driver following too closely, but apparently their big tough truck can't handle a little water on the road because they completely lose control, smash into the median on the right, and end up against the center divider. What a dumbass. We're going to go from the West Seattle Bridge to the Montlake Bridge. Keep an eye on this gold SUV heading away from us. They do okay until they hit the drawbridge grading. Once they get on that slippery metal, they seem to lose all traction and end up going left of center, hitting another vehicle head on. Now, this gold SUV seems like it might have been stolen because the driver and the passenger bail out and flee on foot, not even bothering to check on the innocent driver that they hit. This is a frustratingly common problem, not only here in Seattle, but all over the country. Unsure what can be done to address it. I'm not a policymaker, I'm just a YouTuber, but it does seem like something needs to change. Here we have more drivers that have no regard for the people around them. These two drivers seem to be racing each other down MLK in fairly heavy traffic. One driver loses control and ends up on the light rail tracks. Thankfully, no other vehicles involved in this one. Now, most of us would never race on public roads, but not paying attention while you're driving, maybe texting or scrolling on your phone, can cause just as much damage as somebody racing. Here, one inattentive driver ruins the day of at least two other people. This driver runs a red light before causing a double rear-end collision. And this pickup truck driver at the bottom of your screen, not paying attention, they slam into stopped traffic, hitting not one, not two, but three vehicles, one of those vehicles being a city bus. Alright, we have one last rear end crash. Keep an eye up here. At least they missed the pole. We have one more example of how could you not see that coming. This one on Harbor Island, as the driver of this car is going to pull right into the path of a semi-truck. Amazingly, no serious injuries, as it seems like it was more of a glancing blow. For our last crash, we have what is likely another stolen car. Crossing the Fremont Bridge at high speeds, they fail to negotiate a right-hand turn and apparently crash right into the waiting for the interurban sculpture. Once again, we have the driver and passengers flee, kind of awkwardly. They don't really seem to know where they're going. They go to the left, they go to the right. They eventually make their way back to the car before running off the other way. Look, these are not smart people that we're dealing with here. But you, my loyal viewers, are smart people, which is why I trust you'll put down your phones, pay attention to the road, and watch your speed. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.